Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. File number 1626, written by Poppynola, The 7th Avenue Mystery. I'm an actor and had just left an energy class. We were working on how to call in certain energies and open and close chakras in order to help us access different emotions for characters. We finished with a meditation, and I was feeling really lightheaded and energetic. As I'm walking down 7th Avenue, Manhattan, it's packed because of a Knicks game, I think, at Madison Square Garden. So I opted to cross the street to avoid the crowd. I distinctly remember crossing at the light in the crosswalk on 34th Street. But somehow, what felt like a moment later, I was back on the previous side of the street again in the middle of the crowd walking, like I'd never crossed. But I stopped and stood there trying to figure out what the hell just happened. It was like I blinked and ended up back where I started. I stood there and retraced my steps over and over in my mind. I couldn't come up with a plausible reason. What's more strange is that today, only 24 hours later, I have a hard time remembering crossing the street at all, like that memory's just gone, though I remembered it clearly yesterday. Has this ever happened to anyone else? Hey, I have a second channel. If you like the idea of watching someone react to shows they've never seen before, go check it out. It's pretty fun. Link is in the description. Now onto the notes. Case note for file 1626, the 7th Avenue Mystery. So this swings all the way back to my replay theory, in that reality is already done, we already lived through it, at least once, and to a certain extent I don't know how far into the future, but the idea is we're just living in a replay now, experiencing our choices from the first person, but not having direct control. We already made our choices, now we're just trying to understand why, like the Oracle said in the Matrix. So if that's the case, you could just hit the rewind button, reset in time, and you're just back experiencing things again, just from a different point. Now, we don't know if there was a time anomaly, you didn't mention checking your watch or anything, and it would only be a few seconds, so it would be hard to know. The other possibilities is just a classic space-time portal, and those are all over the place, but that is harder to fit, because of how many people you're saying are on the street walking. So if you intersected one, a whole bunch of people would too. So it wouldn't be an anomaly, it would be national news. And that is another point in that these are targeted. Because if not, eventually you would have a space-time portal that opens up in Madison Square Garden and like 200 people walk through it. And how do you discount it at that point, right? There would be cameras that capture it and all that kind of stuff. So either they're all fake, all these stories of space-time portals are all fake, or they're being targeted in locations where only one or a couple people would actually interact with them, and then they fade away. Because they're not unstable. You can cross it multiple times, we've had stories of that, so they have to be targeted. Otherwise, if they're just random phenomena, eventually we would catch it on tape. Multiple people would be experiencing it at the same time. You'd almost be able to replicate it. Case file number 1627, written by Vectorman 1989. When I was maybe 10, I was in the bathroom upstairs in my house. I think I was about to get in the shower, when suddenly there was this awful noise from the other side of the door. It sounded like someone was using a roll of duct tape to seal the gaps in the frame. With gusto, I shouted first, then gradually started screaming for my mom. My mom took forever to respond. She came up the stairs and opened the door. There was no tape. My brother had been downstairs apparently, and there was no one else in the house. Whether I misheard something else, hallucinated the whole thing, my brother being a dick, or was just some fricked up glitch in the Matrix, I will never know. Bonus story I remembered. When I was about the same age, I was walking home from school past the village hall. There's often events, clubs, etc. going on, and the front doors are open so you can see into the building. One day, as I was walking past, there was a group of people in the hall. I only glanced in as I walked by. I didn't see or hear anything really. When I'm about 20 feet from the door, this guy in a red jumper and baseball cap comes out the door, starts following me. I only live maybe 200 meters away from the hall. At first I thought he was just leaving the building, but I can hear him catching up with me, and something really didn't feel right. I pick up the pace a bit and kind of speed walk around the corner up my street. When I turn around, I see him looking at me and saying something into a walkie-talkie. At this point, I lose my crap and sprint the rest of the way home and burst in the door. I tell my mom about him, but she says I'm overreacting. She didn't want to go down to the hall and ask any questions. My dad was away working, so we never found out who this guy was and why he followed me looking into the hall. Case notes for file 1627, Tape and Trepidation, First story is serious horror vibes. I mean, you could say, okay, this is happening in a different universe and it's multiverse sound, you're just hearing it. But why would anyone be taping the seams of a bathroom? That is creepy. I mean, maybe to paint the exterior walls, I guess. Still weird and creepy, right? And the second story is also creepy, but more of the mundane aspect. It's the walkie-talkie leads me to think that it was very organized. And if you didn't live very close by, who's to say what would have happened? I don't even want to think about it. Case file number 1628, written by Verum Seeker, Midnight Secrets and Shadows. It was midnight and I was on my way back home just like any other night. Unfortunately, on this occasion, I was walking alone. My route back home usually goes through an alleyway located between an old convent school and a block of flats. I've never seen anything strange, nor have I heard of anyone seeing anything anomalous, but this time it was different. I was approaching the entrance of the alley when I suddenly noticed a shape. A tall man in dark clothing, possibly with a hood, walking towards me, and I guess that the person was black. But I'm not sure since it was 20 or 30 meters away and I wear glasses, so I'm not the best at picking up precise details in the distance. Despite that, even though it was subjective, I somehow felt the shape was staring directly at me, and that feeling wasn't pleasant at all. No one else could be seen, and I was the only one walking through the alley. I felt a bit startled. Although where I live is a tranquil place, getting mugged is always a real thing. This person was already inside the alley and kept moving towards me for a few seconds. I would say he reached between 1/3 and half of the total length of the alleyway, approximately 45 meters long. Then I quickly looked down, and when I looked in front of me again, there was no trace of the eerie person, absolutely nothing. Just the empty passage and a teenage couple walking hand in hand in the background on the adjacent street. I didn't look away for more than 0.75 to 1 second. I didn't feel scared, I was just utterly confused. I hastened my pace to peek around the corners, and when I reached the end of the alley, I saw no sign of that person. The next perpendicular street was 40 meters away from the exit of the passage. I've made the measurements using Google Maps. So this person should have walked back the 15 to 23 meters covered inside the passage in 1 second. With a conservative estimate, 15 meters in 1 second. He would have had to run at 54 kilometers an hour. I checked for any doorway or entrance between the shape and me, and there's only one. It's a run-down, decrepit wooden door from an abandoned ancient house. I tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. The lock was so old and unused that it was corroded by rust. It looked like it hadn't been opened in decades and probably would have taken a long time to open, accompanied by a loud creaking sound. It's hard to believe the shape took the keys and opened the door quietly. Case answer file 1628. Midnight Secrets and Shadows. So I adore how analytical your mind is, trying to piece together the exact distances with Google Maps, how fast the person would have to have walked if it was just a normal person or sprinted to exit your field of view in time. Props to you for that. That's how I would react. And in terms of what it was, I mean, a shadow being is possible. Someone stuck in transit between two universes. Maybe that is what they are, and sometimes it takes a long time to transfer over. And for some reason they couldn't go to the buffered dead universe to await the transfer. Or it's just multiverse sight, but multiverse sight, you just see the other reality in crystal clarity, not as a shadow being or something. Bit of an anomaly here in terms of what you can place it as, but it might just be that, an actual error in what are normal glitches. You know, a glitch in a glitch, you could say. Now time for the joke of the day. What do you call a psychic little person who has escaped from prison? A small medium at large. But the real question is, if he was psychic, how was he ever caught in the first place? Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.